Is everyone ready? Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here today as we talk about the extreme cold, which will be entering our region tonight and be here through Saturday. I'm Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz. I'm joined by Kendra Schmidt from Deaf Access Services, who's providing the American Sign Language. We are also joined by Dr. Gail Burstein from our Department of Health, which you'll be hearing from Dr. Burstein soon, as well as Marie Cannon, our Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, and the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, Greg Butcher, as they were always, all of these partners are involved one way or another when we have extreme weather events. I think as we all know, and at least the media knows, and hopefully the public does know, we are expecting an Arctic air front to arrive later tonight. As described by the Weather Service, it is going to see a very rapid burst of snow in a short period of time. Not a lot of snow, no more than an inch of snow, but driving conditions during that period will be very difficult, and there could be whiteout conditions that exist, including thunder snow. Everyone gets excited when they hear thunder snow, but thunder snow happens when we have a very, very possible extreme storm. And so we are expecting some very difficult driving conditions arriving later tonight as the Arctic front moves across upstate New York. And then the temperature will start to rapidly drop afterwards. So by this time tomorrow, it will be in the single digits across Erie County. So once again, a brief burst of heavy snow, 15 to 30 minutes, an inch or less, gusts in excess of 40 miles per hour, possible whiteout conditions, and thunder snow, as reported by the National Weather Service. And then the temperature, as I said, will plunge to brutally cold air, which can cause life-threatening wind chills of minus 15 to minus 20 degrees in our region. It is going to be very, very cold in the Watertown and Tug Hill Plateau region of upstate New York, where they were talking about potential for minus 50. This is the type of temperature that can cause frostbite, hypothermia if you're out for extended periods. You'll hear from Dr. Burstein very soon about that, about what we're expecting, and also how to prepare for it and how to identify if somebody might have frostbite and what to do. We are activating, of course, a number of our resources that we have. Our Code Blue resource, which is run through Erie County. The warming shelters, of course, will be available, including in a 24-hour operation for the overnight hours. We're very worried about the homeless population. It was a population we were worried about in the blizzard last time, and we do know, unfortunately, a number of the individuals who died outside were homeless. So we are active. The homeless, I should say this, the Code Blue shelters were activated and worked throughout the whole time during the blizzard last time. They never lost power. The Code Blue shelters have to have backup generators to be part of the program. We'll hear a little bit more about that soon from Marie Cannon and the locations that will be active because we do not want individuals out for an extended period during these exceptionally cold temperatures. And then, of course, Saturday is going to be a little bit better with a warm-up throughout the day, and then Sunday we'll be back to kind of traditional weather where we actually might be in the mid-30s, and we'll certainly be past the extreme cold. If you're traveling, you should have your car stocked with materials. Hopefully people have learned that after the blizzard, that you don't want to be stuck on the road or have a problem, especially in extreme cold. So make sure you have jumper cables, kitty litter for your car if you happen to get stuck, so you can use it for traction, signal for help or caution, including flares. Keep you and your passengers warm with blankets, extra gloves. I keep blankets, scarves, extra gloves, hats in my vehicle just in case something bad happens. And make sure you have stuff in case you got stuck for a period that can keep you in touch with everyone, like an extra cell phone charger and snacks, so that you have some food or water as well if you happen to get stuck along the road in these more adverse conditions. We follow the National Weather Service, of course. We get direct reports from the National Weather Service even before the public sees them, but they also then publish that on Twitter and Facebook, so we recommend that you follow the National Weather Service out of Buffalo office. We also have our Ready Erie app. It's been in effect for a number of years. It worked throughout the blizzard and on prior storms. It's available on Android and iPhone, and you can get notifications pushed directly to your phone on information such as if there are road closures where warming shelters or other places might be through the Ready Erie app. So all you got to do is go to erie.gov/Ready Erie, and you can download it to your phone today. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Burstein to talk a little bit about how people should dress appropriately for cold and wind, especially children. We know that the City of Buffalo schools have already announced they will be closed in person. They will be doing remote learning tomorrow. I talked to Mike Cornell, the head of the Superintendents Association for Erie County. He indicated he thought most other school districts would be open tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that you should send your kid, if you're going to the bus stop, dressed inappropriately. They got to be dressed appropriately. So I'll turn it over to Dr. B at this point.
Thank you. So as the county executive mentioned, it is going to be a cold next couple of days. So cold can cause a lot of damage to our skin, our tissues, and our bodies. And this is all preventable, making sure that we stay inside in a warm place. And if we have to go out, if we make sure that we dress appropriately, covered vulnerable areas, and make sure that we stay warm. So if you can, stay indoors. But people are going to have to go out and run errands probably. Kids want to go outside. So make sure you be smart about dressing outside. So tips to keep warm we have up here. So what you want to do is make sure that you have all vulnerable areas of your skin covered. You lose a lot of heat from your head, so make sure that you're wearing a hat, that it's covering your ears. Make sure you have a good scarf, that it's covering your neck and your chin and your mouth. Making sure that you're dressing in layers, so not just one big bulky piece of parka, but layers, a turtleneck, a sweater, a parka on top of it, making sure that you have good gloves, your hands don't get cold, making sure that you have warm boots so you don't slip and fall, and make sure that your outside layers are waterproof or water resistance. And then when you do come in and you do start to get a little cold, make sure you take breaks, come in, get warm, and rest. And if you do get wet, that gets cold really fast, so make sure you get inside to a dry place. So the adverse consequences that we can see from extreme cold are frostbite and hypothermia, which is a medical emergency. So frostbite is tissue damage to the skin because of the severe cold. So signs and symptoms of frostbite is, initially people can develop some pain, redness at the site, and then if it gets very, very cold and start to get tissue damage, then the skin can turn white or grayish. It can become kind of firm or rubbery or waxy, and then the person develops numbness. Hypothermia, again, is a medical emergency. You cannot survive if your core body temperature is below 95 degrees for an extended period of time. So people really have to pay attention to shivering, because shivering is the first sign of developing hypothermia. So if you start to shiver or start to see your kids shiver, or educate your kids, shivering, danger, go inside. Also, with hypothermia, people start, it affects your brain, so people get confused, they get clumsy, they stutter their speech, they may have some memory loss, they become very drowsy, they may slip and fall, they have poor balance. So that is a sign that this is danger. So this needs to be attended to ASAP. It is an emergency. So what you want to do in those instances is bring the people inside right away into a warm and dry place. You want to make sure you remove any wet clothing, because that's sinking up the heat from their skin and their body. So making sure that they're covered in warm blankets. You want to call 911, make sure that they can get medical attention ASAP. And while you're waiting, make sure that they're covered in warm blankets. If you see any damage to the skin, that looks like frostbite, you can put that skin in some type of lukewarm water. Don't rub it because the friction will cause even more damage, or don't put an electric heat on it because, again, it's numb. They can't really feel how hot it is. So just some lukewarm water that is not too hot, and then get them to healthcare ASAP, because hypothermia is a medical emergency. Another thing we want to make sure that we do is we're a city of good neighbors, so you want to make sure that you, in this very extreme cold temperatures, you want to make sure that you check on your neighbors that are more vulnerable, like our older adults in our community, or people that have, a lot of kids. It may be difficult for them to get out, or people are the disabled. So just give a knock on the door, make sure they're okay, see if there's anything you can do for them, if they need anything urgently, and just say hi, just be a friendly face. Also, what we worry about in these extreme cold times is carbon monoxide poisoning. And the most common way that people get carbon monoxide poisoning is from furnaces or dryer vents or any kind of machinery equipment in your home where the vent is covered and outside vent is covered, and then the carbon monoxide that's generated by these motors stays inside, and you get a high concentration inside your home. Carbon monoxide is odorless, it's tasteless. The only way you're going to know that it's there is if you have a working carbon monoxide monitor and it starts to go off. Unfortunately, what it does is it initially puts people to sleep, so they don't even realize that that there's a problem until it's too late. So there are things that we can do to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Make sure that, again, your vents are clear to the outside. Make sure that if you have a generator, it's at least 20 feet away from the house. If you have a space heater, make sure that it's at least 3 feet away from anything else that's flammable in the home. And again, make sure that your carbon monoxide monitor is working. So, and I just want to, we'll give out in a moment these Let's Get Ready for Winter. We have these on our Erie County Health Department website. They were made by the Office of Health Equity, and they're really great resources, and the county executive is going to talk about some other great resources that we have.
Thank you, Dr. Burstein. As you may see on the screen, one of the issues that we know, especially when heat is lost in a house, is that pipes can burst. And there are, of course, one easiest way to eliminate that is to ensure that faucets are running. I'm going to turn it over to our Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services Deputy Commissioner Greg Butcher, who's in charge of the Emergency Services Wing, to talk a little bit more about that, as well as some of the other things to look forward to and deal with in a situation where you have extreme adverse cold.
Thank you, County Executive. As Dr. Burstein pointed out, all of the medical concerns, in addition to that, we have the human factor that goes into things. As you know, with the extreme cold, you can see effects on our infrastructure. Pipes, whether they're water, drinking water, or whether they're wastewater, they could be older and have possible fractures. These extreme colds, which we haven't seen since 2016, according to the National Weather Service, could cause fractures in those pipes. Additional to that, we have to think about our other utilities, like the electric. Any fractures in those lines can be exacerbated by these cold temperatures. We're working actively with all of our utility partners, both water, wastewater, and our electrical partners, as well as gas line partners, to make sure those things are looked after. There's other things that we're concerned about when it comes to that, and it's heating in the home. Temperatures that get this low often have people looking for alternatives to heating in their home. Things like stoves are an improper way to heat your home, but we hear of people doing it all the time. As far-fetched as it may seem, even outdoor gas grills have been pulled into homes. As the doctor had pointed out, with other things that can affect people, carbon monoxide poisoning, which is the off-gassing of those ineffective heating materials, is dangerous to the public. So we definitely want people to be cognizant of it, not find alternative means of heating like that, but to identify the proper means to heat your home. Additionally, these cold temperatures, there's going to be a slight snowfall. We just also want to remind everyone that as that slight snowfall is on the road, these extreme temperatures also affect the aggregates that are put down on the roadways, which could still make for treacherous travel. Things like salt, sand, and the like often don't work as effectively in these extreme cold temperatures. So we want the public to be cognizant of that as well. Thanks. County Executive.
Thank you, Greg. It's a very important point with regards to salting of roads, as has been informed to me over the years by the Department of Public Works. Once we hit 14 degrees temperature, salt really doesn't work anymore. And we generally don't use sand in the suburban areas because it clogs up sewer pipes. So if it is what it's supposed to be, which is single digits, which is the regular temperature, nevertheless the wind chill, and there's snow, it's going to be pretty tough to use salt, and actually it's going to be impossible at that point to use salt to remove it. So the snow would be on the ground. It's just a matter of plowing as much of it off as you can. Thankfully, we're not expecting a lot of snow. But as Greg talked about, and we said, prevent thaw and frozen pipes. The best thing to do is, if you don't have insulation on them already, is to just ensure that you have stream of water going through your faucet so that the water is always passing through and just doesn't freeze in the pipe. And truthfully, never leave the heat in your house below 55 degrees. A lot of people like to turn down the heat. I turn down the heat at night because you don't need it when you're sleeping as much. But you should never have it lower than 55 degrees. That causes all kinds of problems with your equipment. We talked about this, having fire safety, smoke detectors, and carbon monoxide detectors are very important. We unfortunately have seen some tragic deaths in fires as a result of locations or the homes not having smoke detectors. Just want to remind everybody, it's very difficult to fight these fires during the winter when it's exceptionally cold. But the firefighters go out there and do it. And sometimes, unfortunately, they're not able to rescue everyone. So make sure your fire detectors are fully active. Change your batteries basically every 6 months to ensure that you have fresh batteries so they don't not work in a situation. We have, as Dr. Burstein already talked about, the Let's Get Ready for Winter through our Health Equity, which has got a great newsletter on what can be done to address the issues associated with the problems in winter that we often face, and is available on our website. There's also some other great links here. I want to bring up our Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, Marie Cannon, because when we have these extreme cold, one of the things that we get ready for in winter is ensuring that our code blue locations are appropriate and active, and we have 2 locations in the city of Buffalo that are strong, good locations that work throughout the entire blizzard. And had individuals there, never lost power because they have backup generators, and they will be active again during this upcoming cold spell because we know because of these exceptionally cold temperatures, if someone is homeless and is trying to live out on the streets, they could die in this weather, and we do not want to see that. So, Commissioner?
Thank you. Uh-oh. Did I hit the wrong one? So we are fortunate to live in the city of good neighbors, as we're known, because we have very good collaborative partners to ensure that people who are vulnerable, and especially the homeless, have a place to go, especially in extreme weather events like this. So we partner with the City of Buffalo, the Homeless Collaborative, the Restoration Society, who helps us to make sure that nobody is left out on the streets. And even in the city of Buffalo, we have 2 sites, 2 Code Blue Centers, we call them. They're at 586 Genesee Street and 412 Niagara Street, both in the city of Buffalo. And they are low barrier. You need to get out of the code. You just show up and they'll let you in. That is how this is designed. And then we also want to make sure not only our neighbors in the city of Buffalo have opportunity to get out of the code, but neighbors outside of the city of Buffalo. And so we work with the Rural Outreach Center, and what they do is that they have a place where folks can go as well, but because of the access and transportation in the rural parts of the county, they actually have an outreach van that starts at 7 p.m. that will go out and pick anybody up. They would just have to call, and here's the number. It is 716-240-2220, extension 106. So starting at 7 p.m., the van will go out and pick up anybody that is in need of a ride to get to a shelter. It might be out in that area, or they will actually bring them into the city to one of the shelters. So again, those warming centers are located at 586 Genesee Street, 412 Niagara Street in the city of Buffalo. And also, if you need additional information, there is updates that are given. You can actually text Code Blue Buffalo to 898-211. Code Blue Buffalo to 898-211. And then if you're outside and you're in like the southern tier of the county, you actually text Code Blue Southern Erie to 898-211. Again, it is Code Blue Southern Erie 898-211. If anybody has any information, they can't remember all these numbers, just dial 211, and they will be able to direct folks to any of the centers, any of the warming centers that will be open, as the county executive said, starting tomorrow morning. So again, we have warming centers. We want people off the street. We have an outreach van for both outside of the city of Buffalo as well as in the city of Buffalo. And they often go to places where they know people who are experiencing homelessness, congregate, and will encourage them to come out of the cold. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. As we know, there were too many tragic deaths associated with the blizzard in December, and quite a number of them were homeless individuals. And there is a mechanism in place to help these individuals, and as was explained by the Commissioner, it is a strong system. Sometimes individuals don't take advantage of it, and that's why they actually will often go out in the street into these locations where they know homeless people are. And hopefully they're able to get everybody, because this is exceptional cold and we don't want to see anybody die as a result of it. Thankfully, it won't be too long, and this Sunday we're expecting the weather to actually be in the mid-30s, and we are having Winterfest. So let's get through these 2 days and then enjoy Winterfest at Chestnut Ridge Park from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. All kinds of activities. There'll be cross-country skiing demos, curling demos. We're going to have animal acts there, crafts, all kinds of other winter sports, and then of course at Chestnut Ridge Park we're going to have sledding, and skiing on the hill there. We're not certain if we have enough snow for tobogganing. We generally need a certain layer of snow to ensure the toboggan chutes run, but we know we will definitely have snow for sledding and skiing and all the other activities that go on. So once we get through these couple days, then make sure you get out to Chestnut Ridge Park for Winterfest on Saturday, and hope to see you there. With that, I'll open up to any questions from the media.
Is the county issuing any weather emergency? You know, obviously not with a whole lot of snow anticipated, but in the past, of course, there are so many weather alerts that the county puts out, other agencies put out. But in this particular situation with the Arctic blast, would there be any overall weather emergency to go out?
The question is, will the county be issuing a weather emergency? We either have a state of emergency or we don't. And we do not expect to be issuing a state of emergency associated with the cold temperatures. It is not going to be good. It's going to be exceptionally cold, but it's not like we see often in these blizzard conditions or snowstorms where it is just at any moment it could be life-threatening. Cold temperatures exist in this region. We are used to them. You just have to be dressed appropriately. So I would not expect to see a state of emergency under the current forecast. It would have to be a dramatic change with regards to snowfall rates and whiteout conditions to issue a state of emergency.
You said a lot of schools are going to be open. Do you think you should advise that they should close? Like, kind of where are you on that?
They have a formula that they use, which is usually when they have a temperature of around -18 to -20 degrees. It appears that we're not really going to get there, or if we do, it's going to be for just a short period of time. I think we all remember the stories when we were young. We went out, we dressed up full, we walked uphill both ways to school. A little different, but we want to ensure that children are safe. And children can be safe for short periods of time in this type of conditions as long as they're dressed appropriately. This is not the day you want to see your kid go outside tomorrow if school's walking to school or going to the bus stop wearing jeans and a hoodie. I mean, this is where they have to be appropriately dressed. They may not like it, but that's how, if they're appropriately dressed, so you can keep warm in these situations. And so at this point, as I said, I talked to Mike Cornell from the School District Association. He felt that other than the city of Buffalo, he didn't see other schools doing it. Now, if the weather forecast change and it's going to be significantly colder or additional snowfall and rates, then of course they might change their mind. We've gone through this before. We just haven't gone through it in a few years. I think it's almost at this point 7 years, probably 2016. You said. So it's been a while, and not everybody may be accustomed to the extreme cold. We've had these days before where it's single digits, and we've had wind chills in the -10, -15. It's been a while. So we thought it was important to hold this press conference, remind everybody what they should do in these circumstances when you have these bitter cold temperatures. But we're Buffalo, we're hardy, we can get through this if you're dressed appropriately and you don't go out for extended circumstances. If you send your kids out there to play for 3 hours in a row, that's bad. That is bad in these type of circumstances.
Do you have a time on when this half inch to inch of snow in 10 minutes is going to come down, or 15?
I believe we've been told pretty well, it's actually going to come in the later evening hours. It could be 6 to 8 p.m. We're expecting, so once we get through kind of drive time home tonight, we do expect it's not going to be a lot of snow. County Department of Public Works are all ready. They've been sanding roads, and they'll be out with the plows. That's not a problem. 1 inch of snow an hour isn't really a problem. It's just a matter of we want people to understand that they're going to have a period where it just comes real quickly and the conditions won't be great. And while we don't expect there to be enough snow for vehicles to get stuck, if you have whiteout conditions, people could get in accidents, and you better be prepared for what could come.
So often during these really cold weather events, we do see frozen water pipes, and for water main breaks, be happening at numerous locations, and I just wonder what's gonna be happening with that in terms of preparations, bringing in additional crews, having more people on standby,
Well,
working with other agencies, what's happening with that?
the Water Authority is prepared. We've been in touch with them. They can have, in these circumstances, water main breaks. It's happened before. And I give credit to all the workers who are then going out there trying to repair a main line that's like a 24, or even the largest one. I remember that when it was a 48-inch line, in these usually terrible weather circumstances. When you have a system that's a little older, it can happen. And that's why it's important that people in their homes take appropriate action to ensure if they lose power, that their pipes will not freeze, and the Water Authority stands by. It is not a part of county government. I think it's important to say. It's called the Erie County Water Authority, and then there's the Buffalo Water Authority, but neither of them are part of county government. We have a relationship, a partnership with them, but they are a separate organization, and we have been in touch with them, and they will have crews ready if need, and hopefully they won't have to send anybody out because they don't have any major water lines burst.
There are no warming shelters outside the city of Buffalo?
The Rural Outreach Center does have a location, yes. But it's a pickup. You call that number and they come and take you to it. So in the Code Blue, which is actually run by the county, county dollars and state dollars that do the Code Blue, you have the 2 locations in the city of Buffalo, and you have the 1 in the southern part of the county through the Rural Outreach Center. But because of the large size difference with the rest of the county, they don't expect people to walk in or drive in. It's actually a call and they will pick you up.
And just because it was mentioned,
Yeah, I'll go to you, Mike.
the concern with people who are homeless and them being outside, do you recall how many homeless people died during the blizzard?
I don't have the exact number. I think there were 17 people that died outside, and the majority of them were homeless. We're actually going to be doing a review of every death associated with it now that we've pretty much finalized all the deaths. It's going to take some time to determine not only the exact cause of death, but what was the circumstance that led to that person's death, so that we can learn from it to find out if there's something else that we could do in the future that would help prevent future similar type deaths. But my understanding is that of the individuals who were found outside, a majority or more than half of them were homeless. Yes.
You recently announced plans for an emergency alert system for life-threatening storms. I'm curious, you said life-threatening wind chills. Would you consider expanding this alert system for circumstances like this one? And then as well, there was mention of ranking the storm between 1 and 5. How would you go about ranking that, and what will classify 1 and 5?
Well, first off, this is not a blizzard warning. We've had multiple blizzards. I was actually going back through my records. How many of you remember the blizzards of 2014? And I'm not talking about the November storm. Everyone's like, what? There were 2 blizzards in 2014, in January of 14 and March of 2014. But nobody remembers them. Nobody died during those blizzards. Nobody died during the blizzards. They were multi-day events. We got through those, but they were much milder. Instead of having 70+ mile per hour winds, we had 20 to 30 mile per hour winds and 45 mile per hour wind gusts. So what we're looking at is potentially coming up with a system, working with professionals. We've actually already been in touch with a couple who are like PhDs in atmospheric and national weather type of background, environmental sciences, to refine a system that may actually already exist. Because not every blizzard is the same. So what we want to do is save the emergency alert system for the most life-threatening. Normally it wouldn't be used unless there's a tornado, or if you often see in the South, a hurricane, where we expect imminent death. We don't expect imminent death in this storm here. We want to save the system for the real, it's going to be bad, and we expect people to die, because we don't want to overuse it. We don't want to activate an emergency alert system and then have people get so accustomed to the emergency alert system just from any old storm that they just ignore it. I'll bring Greg Butcher up to talk a little bit more, because he's actually kind of involved behind the scenes with the emergency alert system. But our biggest fear is getting it to a point where we activate the emergency alert system for things that don't deserve it, don't need it, and then it's like we're crying wolf. And then when the actual emergency comes where we need people to heat it, they don't heat it. So Greg?
Exactly what the county executive said. You know, we hear that term, to cry wolf. The emergency alert system and the iPause system, basically they are platforms that engage every bit of media, whether it is print, online, social, the television, radio, and then now with the iPause, it's the most advanced. It goes to your cellular devices and takes them over. It's kind of like an Amber Alert. There have been uses of that across the country that our partners at the federal government tell us have been overuse, and that cry wolf syndrome has hit, and it's becoming less and less effective. And when we met with the county executive, he agreed wholeheartedly that this is something we don't want to make light of and use only in the extreme circumstances. The system is not brand new. We have had access to it for a while. The county has access to it and has all along. There's a process in which we follow to activate the system, and there are only certain people that are capable of activating it. We work with our partners and test it on a monthly basis from the federal government, and we do think there's an opportunity to use it here when necessary, but as the county executive said, we don't want to overuse the system or use it when we don't think it's appropriate. In this particular case, there's only one major facet here, which is the temperature, and I don't want to make light of that, but there is not blinding snow, there's not incredibly high winds. Those are all categories we rely on our partners at the National Weather Service to identify severity in different types of weather events that could cause us to use this system. So in this case, we just haven't reached a point. We are in an extreme cold advisory. There are other parts of the state, as the county executive pointed out, up in the Tug Hill region, which are under a warning based on the fact that their temperatures are even colder. So we have the system available. We're going to use it when it's necessary, and at this point, we don't believe we've reached that threshold yet. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. This is going to be cold. We've had extreme cold here before. We've actually had some days which are even colder. Thankfully, it doesn't appear the temperature is supposed to get below zero. We've had that before. But it's going to be extreme cold, and we haven't had it for some time, and we want the people to just understand that there are certain precautions that you can take to ensure that you and your family are safe. If you're going out in these temperatures in a vehicle, you should have certain things in your car to ensure that in case something does happen, you get in an accident, your car runs out of gas, whatever it is, that you are prepared to be sitting inside your car for a little bit, and you'll be safe because you have appropriate clothing and other things necessary. So just want everyone to be safe and secure. And then finally, as I said, Sunday's going to be a great day. Hope to see everyone at Winterfest. It's going to be a wonderful day. We're going to have lots of snow on the ground. We know that. It's already there at Chestnut Ridge. We're expecting another little bit, as we talked about tonight, at least an inch. And after the cold temperatures of tomorrow and Saturday, I think people will be looking forward to getting out and enjoying the winter at Winterfest. So hope to see everyone there. Take care.
Are you doing any